Hello and welcome to the Smart Connections podcast and the Talk the Path podcast. My name is Anna Sanderlin. I am a Warmline facilitator for the University of Memphis Smart Center. The University of Memphis School of Social Work Smart Research, Training, and Treatment Center aims to provide evidence-based interventions for school-based mental health programming, increase access for school-based behavioral health programming in underserved areas, offer training on best practices in telebehavioral health, develop opportunities to research the use of technology in practice, and provide direct services to the state's most vulnerable populations. You can call the Smart Center at 901-678-1636. The University of Memphis Smart Center, in conjunction with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, would like to present the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. The goals of the Pathways Project are to provide education and information on the various career opportunities in the field of behavioral health through presentations, increase interest in students in the field of behavioral health, provide opportunities for guidance with information regarding college, university programming that result in degrees for professions in the field of behavioral health, connect students with students in behavioral health programs and professionals in the field for further research. This podcast will feature students and professionals in the field to give a clear picture of the daily duties of these roles and how they help support their communities.
All right. Good morning to Ms. Paige Keisler Collins. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ariane. I'm a clinician in the Smart Center. I'm currently in the last semester of my master's program. And I'm just looking forward to getting to know you during this interview today.
Very nice. Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Zaria Taylor. I'm also a master's level student at the University of Memphis. I'm interning at the University of Memphis Smart Center, and this is also my last semester. And we are happy to have you once again.
Well, my name is Paige Keisler Collins. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, a registered yoga teacher with certifications in aerial yoga, trauma-informed yoga, breathwork, and Pilates. And I am the owner and founder of Mind Body Knox. So we are a full mental and physical wellness center here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I have a bachelor's degree in applied psychology with an emphasis in child and family studies and master's degree in clinical mental health counseling.
Wow.
Yes, and I reside in Knoxville, but I do provide both in-person and telehealth video sessions. And I'm licensed in a few states. So I actually have clients spread out all throughout the United States.
Wow, okay. Sounds nice.
Oh, wow. It does.
So when did you found your business?
So it's definitely a long journey of how we got to this point. So I first started Mind Body Knox in 2018, and it's grown a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's nice.
That does sound like a really fun thing to be able to do, especially because it seems like you're so passionate about it. So just seeing that passion within you about your business, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey to becoming the woman that you are right now professionally?
Yes. And let's see, I guess I'll go way back like 20 years ago when I started college. It's, like I said, a long process, right, to get to this point. But when I was thinking about this interview, I was thinking how much it's hard to talk about my professional endeavors without also talking about my personal life and how the two have just been so intertwined over the years. And so I'll start kind of with sharing that my now adopted daughter, she's actually 21 now, but I met her when I was 18 and she was 2. And I just started my bachelor's degree, just kind of her buddy at the time. But then I went straight from my bachelor's degree into my master's program and found myself right as soon as I was starting my master's program being a primary caretaker in her life. And so I knew at the time needed to get a good paying job to support the two of us while I was in school, and just happened to stumble across there were two psychologists that were looking for an administrative assistant to work in their office. And it just kind of was like the stars aligned, and this was going to be, it was such a great opportunity for me. One of the psychologists, he was a forensic psychologist. And so he did a lot of work with like the court system and psychological evaluations. So it was, really neat experience to be able to see that side of things. And then the other psychologist, Dr. Erickson, he did outpatient therapy. And he became my mentor over the years. Got to learn so much from him, and just really that behind the scenes view of how private practice operates and all the ins and outs. Actually got to do some of my internship and practicum hours with him in grad school. And so again, thinking that experience was very influential from where I am today, as well as just my grad school program in general. That the director is now retired, but he was a big advocate just for holistic health and all of the integrating physical wellness practices. So, all the things we're doing at Mind Body Knox with the yoga, mindfulness, meditation, breath work, all of that being integrated in. So I think, being there during my formative years, when I'm like learning the field and studying all this, to get such great exposure to that early on, it definitely shaped, where I am today. So when I finished grad school, a couple months after finishing grad school, I actually went to the court system to file for emergency full custody of my daughter, because I was in a primary caretaking role, but not necessarily legally, and then found for her safety that we needed to kind of take it to that next level. So Dr. Erickson had actually invited me to join his practice after graduation, but knowing that, I was planning on getting licensed, not being licensed yet, though not able to take insurance, I knew I couldn't sustain that for a full-time job and financially provide for the two of us, because it was just us. I wasn't married at the time, so I was a single mom taking her, her on. And I ended up getting a job in community mental health. I've listened to the other podcast, and that there's definitely the theme here of community mental health work is hard, right? It's hard work. Not great pay. At least this is 2010. Maybe the pay's gotten better. Probably not, but it was definitely challenging work. But in hindsight, looking back, I will say that I learned a lot during my time in that role. Number one, being able to manage crisis situations, because there were no shortage of crisis situations. And it definitely gave me the confidence in being able to manage those, that I think, that's definitely benefited me as a clinician, over the years. And also community, the center that I worked for, they paid for my licensure. So it was part of the arrangement that they would pay for all of my supervision. So it was about 2 years of supervision, about $12,000. They paid for all of that in exchange for me working with them 2 more years post licensure. So I ended up being in community mental health for 4 years total. And again, just given my situation, single mom, needing to provide for us, that was a really big deal to have my supervision paid for and not have to take on, that extra expense myself. And also when I was in the working at that facility, I was part of a national clinical research trial of youth aging out of foster care. So again, just neat experiences, being able to get to, be involved in some of those things that, private practice doesn't really lend itself to. But my goal the whole time, was to want to go into private practice full time, once my contract, there was over. But then in 2013, I still had a year left on my contract. I was fully licensed at this time, so still doing private practice, part-time, a few clients on the side of working full-time. Dr. Erickson, my mentor, that I had worked for and then, was working with, he suddenly passed away from a heart attack. And so just kind of found myself getting derailed there, not only grieving the loss of him with, this is someone I'd been really close to and had just, guided me, so much along the way. But also found myself in a situation. I had clients in private practice, and the lease in the office we were at was about to renew. And I knew I couldn't take on a full-time lease, not being able to work there full-time. So there was definitely sometimes questioning, like, can I do private practice? Is this the route for me? Like what, kind of what comes next? fast. And I just took to the internet and started reaching out to some different therapists in their own practices, seeing if they had some abilities, for me to sublease for a year and then this and that. And ended up reaching out to one therapist, Lynn Smith, who's now my business partner. And remember the first time I walked in, I needed to walk in, like, meet with her in her office, to kind of just meet face to face, kind of talk about the arrangement. And I remember first walking in and being like, there is no way I can afford this. Like, her office was so nice, it's so pretty, and just thinking like, this is out of my league. But Lynn then just took me under her wing, and just explained my situation to her. She only charged me part-time rent. It was her and another therapist there that had since retired. They had a third office, and said, I could join part-time, with the understanding that in a year from now, when my contract at the community mental health was up, I would come full-time with them, and that's what happened. So I had 4 years to kind of build my private practice from the ground up. So I got contracted with the insurance companies, built the website, got everything handled on like the business legal side of things. And then in summer of 2014, took that leap to go full-time into private practice. And it was scary, to say the least, right? Like, I had a salaried position, and then to, think that how, what happens if I don't get enough clients? What happens, with this and that? But I was very fortunate that I got like super busy, super fast. I see kids and teenagers, and there was a need, but there really is still a big need, at least, in East Tennessee area, for clinicians that see, youth, not just adults. So I was very fortunate, to be able to have that office space with Lynn and transition into full time. And there was definitely lots of learning experiences along that journey. Some trial and errors, right? Mistakes made. But it was really cool for me to go from the really hard work of community mental health and having to be on call and like rotating weekends and holidays, while also being a single mom, to going into private practice, and getting to make my own hours and having the flexibility in my schedule, never having to work another weekend, making more money, with all these other perks that come along with it. So that was definitely, looking back, like what a big transition that leap was. And then working in private practice, like I said, lots of learning experiences along the way. But one thing I don't think I had quite realized going into it was kind of the sedentary nature of private practice. Because in community mental health, I was all over the place all the time. We were meeting with clients in their home, seeing them at school, at work, like just really all over the place. And I would consider myself more active, and I like, kind of being, up and about. And then after a little while in private practice, I was like, I walk from my chair to the door. And very sedentary. And that, it just kind of took me by surprise, right? Like, it makes sense when you think about it. I just had never really kind of thought that through, that this is actually a part of the job that I don't like. And I want to be moving my body more. And my office was really small at the time. So I do some play therapy, but still, we're talking a pretty small space here. And then I'd also noticed with my clients that they knew and understood like why they should be practicing coping and relaxation skills. And that, there's so much science evidence, that supports, how these skills, when we learn how to calm our bodies, right, relax our bodies, I'm safe, I'm okay right now. That's such a powerful way then, right, for our mind to follow. But clients had a really hard time integrating these practices into their daily lives. And that's not surprising, right? Like, life is already like busy and stressful, and to try to, take on a meditation or a breath work practice on your own, or if you're already struggling with anxiety and depression, to join, a yoga class or a gym, it's intimidating, right? It's, it's challenges. So I recognize, that while I could practice these skills kind of one-on-one with clients, that I really wanted to kind of do more of that. Kind of more in group settings, kind of more movement, more group practice. At the same time, I was taking an aerial yoga class that my daughter and I joined. We had been taking for a few months, and I just absolutely loved it. Just having the hammocks, it's kind of a different practice than, mat yoga. My daughter was in her early teen years at the time, so she was like pretty bought into that as well. And the owner of the studio had just approached me and asked if I had ever thought about teaching yoga. And I really had. And like I said, I had done, some very simple practices with clients, with relaxation and coping. But when she presented that to me, I knew in my head, like how much, these practices go hand in hand with cognitive behavioral therapy. But then when I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, I'm really interested in this. So in 2017, I got certified to teach aerial and started working for her just one evening a week. So, I'm kind of getting my movement in now, still pretty sedentary at work. And then decided to do the full year yoga teacher training to get my 200-hour certification. I've since done more training and I have my 500-hour certification now. But really decided to just dive in deep with it. And, how can I combine these worlds better, right? That we know our mind and our bodies are so integrated. But in clinical practice, they can be so separate, right? And so really just kind of started, thinking through some ideas of, how to make all of this work. And I met my husband during this time period. We got married and he was just a big supporter of me, like hearing me talk about, how do I do this? I want to do this. I want to offer the skills classes. I want to be able to, teach yoga to my clients and the community members. And so once I finished my yoga teacher training, I started renting out studio space just by the hour. So I had my private practice office I was renting full time, and then these 2 different studio spaces by the hour. So I could start offering these group coping skills classes, all from like a mental health perspective. So we're doing yoga and breath work and moving our bodies, but we're also talking about the science that supports this. Like if I tell you these skills help, I'm going to actually like give you the reasoning. We're going to kind of break it down and how this is actually, helping our bodies. So started doing all these classes, but it's expensive, right? Renting 3 different spaces and hopping all around town. So we decided to start saving up for just to buy our own commercial property and kind of build this wellness center, invest in ourselves. I still have at the time probably 30, 40 years left before retirement, and kind of thought instead of paying someone else's bills, let's save our money and buy our own place, and really like invest in me and my practice and how I want to like combine these worlds. And then some more roadblocks came our ways, just in terms of when you start looking at commercial space, number one, it's super expensive, but number two, to convert a conference room into a studio, like we were not finding what we were looking for. But my colleagues knew that I was searching for space. They knew that this was kind of like my dream, to build this wellness center. It's all in like one location. But then I got pregnant, COVID hit, 2020. We know that was how that year went, right? So found myself transitioning to full-time telehealth. So working from home, just doing video sessions with clients, during that time period. And I really liked working from home. I liked being home with my family and my dogs. And I kind of even questioned like, will I even go back to in-person practice after this? Especially I'm going to have a baby after this, like again, kind of what comes next. And then one day Lynn calls me up because we're still practicing together. We just weren't really seeing each other during the pandemic. But Lynn calls me up. I was 7 months pregnant and she was like, Paige, I'm going to do it with you. Like I've been thinking about it and I want this place just as much as you want this place. Like, let's do it. So at that point, the budget doubled, which makes a big difference, right? And within a week, we were looking at space. The building itself existed, but it was a shell. So you walked into the 2 suites that were open, gravel floor. You could see the rafters. I mean, it was needing like a full build out. So we pulled out the graph paper and started sketching really our dream center. After renting space, for so long, it's really clear office spaces are just not built well for therapy. Paper thin walls. It's not, when you think about like confidentiality and like the whole like noise and sound of a space, we just had continued issues with that renting spaces. So we got to do like some really cool things in building our space, like extra insulation in the walls, popping white noise into like sound machines overhead. So we don't have the little machines out our office. Built the space to where we have the two studios in the same building that we have the private practice offices. But let me tell you, it was a roller coaster of a journey. to go from just my own little private practice, right, that I'm doing to now, we had to establish another LLC, a joint LLC for the two of us to purchase this space, meeting with the architects and the engineers and managing a full construction project. And there were times that it was like, I want off this ride. This is not what I signed up for. This is so stressful. Just like even just getting permits from the county, right, took way longer than we expected. And so we said we were practicing what we preached. We were doing our deep breathing and our meditation just to be able to survive through that time. But fast forward to September 2022 is when we got to open the doors to the new place. I really thought that it was just going to be us utilizing the studio space for me to do the yoga classes. And then she teaches mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's an 8-week course, kind of like an intro to meditation course. We really thought it would just be us in the studio space, and then we were going to rent out the offices to therapists in private practice. And we were completely blown away at the amount of people reaching out to us wanting to be a part of it. So, hearing that, we wanted to combine all, the mental and the physical wellness and, different, yoga teachers, people, with certifications and, breath work and, this and that, massage therapists, who wanted to be a part of what we were doing because they also saw what a big need there was, to combine the two worlds. So now we have 10 therapists practicing out of the space in their own private practices. They just rent from us in the private offices, massage therapists, and then we have 8 wellness instructors. And so we offer about 20 classes a week, everything from yoga, aerial yoga, fitness, mindfulness meditation, breath work, sound bath, just a wide variety of classes, even some classes specifically for kids and families. And they're for all community members, not just clients, that are coming to the office for therapy. We also have some different corporate and community work that we do. So we're partnered with Knox County Parks and Rec to do yoga in the park with them. Different corporations have had us come in to do everything from, maybe leading a yoga class to their employees, to do speaking engagements, about the science behind, all these different practices. So it's just some really cool opportunities, that I just could have never envisioned, everything that would come from it, right? I was, just thinking of it, for me as a one person, doing this, and now it's expanded, into such a large endeavor. And it's just so cool to have, I have my office right across from the studio. And so a lot of the kids and teens that I see will go into the studio as part of our session. And maybe we, hang out in the aerial hammocks while we talk about, the stressors going on in their life. Or, we'll practice, stretching and deep breathing, while we're doing therapy hand in hand. So I'm not just sitting there in the same chair when I'm at work. Right. I have the ability now, I've worked part-time since having my son, and, to be able to still manage, I have a studio manager who takes care of the day-to-day operations, but being able to kind of take care of the more business related things, like the finances and things like that, I can do parts of that from home. And then, seeing my clients are kind of about half and half in terms of in-person and telehealth. And just really getting, again, to combine the two worlds, primarily practicing cognitive behavioral therapy, but really getting to do it in a way where we can do skills practice. And then I also I teach 2 classes a week as well right now at the studio. So I do all ages aerial yoga. So kids can come to that with their caregiver, or teens and adults are welcome. We practice coping skills. So, we're doing aerial yoga in the hammocks. So there's challenges that come with that, like with doing inversions, learning how to trust yourself. But, practicing, grounding, while we're going through this, connecting our breath with movement. And then I also teach a Pilates yoga fusion class.
Okay.
So see my clients there. And within my practice too, I've been, I would say it didn't, while I really enjoy working with clients that like to incorporate these different practices, within their sessions. But what I guess I was surprised about just how my clientele over the years, I have a large clientele of LGBTQ clients. And just offering them, advocating for them, offering a safe and supportive space. Word travels fast in terms of who is safe, right? And unfortunately, that's not everybody's experience, even within therapy and mental health, right? That they are actually getting a safe place, to go. So that's, an area that if you had asked me when I was in grad school, I just wouldn't have seen my practice growing so much in that area. And the same with clients with autism that I have had the wonderful opportunity that a lot of kids, middle schoolers that I would have started seeing many years ago have stuck with me over the years. And now they're in college, they're into adulthood. And we don't necessarily meet, every week for session, but maybe, every other week, once a month, to continue to be, a stable support for them, throughout these changes in life. And then lots of clients, with just the typical life stressors, transitions in life, anxiety, and again, just that being able to do hands-on practice, right? That it's great to have, the talk therapy component, but I think it is just as important, right? That we are practicing the skills and learning those ways, to manage our body, for that, to be able to integrate those practices in our life. So very long answer right there to your question about what the last 20 years have looked like to me. And I didn't add this part at the end. To make the story come full circle, my daughter is now 21. She started in the fall, the same grad school program that I went to, because she also wants to be a and I'm always so quick to say, I didn't pressure her to come this route, but I think just her life experience, just, through the adoption and the grief and loss that she has, dealt with throughout her life. She's been in therapy for many years. And I think, that I think she will be so wonderful in the field. And she has that insider point of view as well. This really is the ins and outs, right, of what all this entails. So I'm just so proud of her. And she actually works part-time for me. She does all of my billing for my practice. Yes.
Wow, that's so exciting.
You are really a woman that has it all: the career, the family, the business, education. I don't see how you juggled it all, especially in grad school, being a parent, working full-time, internship, the classes, the coursework. That is a lot. I'm struggling now.
Yeah.
So I commend you. That is very commendable.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I think I share that just to put it out there. Not saying it's easy, right? But it's definitely doable. That right. I mean, and like I shared, there were several times along the way where it was just like, can I do this? This isn't going the way I thought or the way I planned. But sticking with it, and now hindsight, just looking back and being like, wow, like it was all worth it, for what I do now, and feeling like I'm truly living out, what was once a dream of mine, right? And what I could really only imagine, and for that to be, my day-to-day reality now. So wonderful.
Yeah, but you definitely put in the work, and your journey is definitely worth telling.
Well, thank you.
Sounds like you took every opportunity that was presented to you. Like your story shows the importance of networking and having a mentor while you're young, and even whenever you're in your practice. So,
yes,
that's wonderful.
I think that again, those having connections with people that are in the field, even if you have to establish those connections yourself, right? Because even with Lynn, right, when I found myself without office space, I was like, I just got to put myself out there. And then I probably emailed maybe 20 therapists, and maybe 2 wrote back, that they had availability that might work for me. But it's, I think that you just have to take the risks sometimes, right? And believe in yourself,
Have you ever thought about branching out in different states, building a business in different states?
Potentially. So right now, my son's 3. And so I think, maybe when he gets a little bit older, but right now I really, like I said, I know when I list out all my roles, it sounds like a lot, but believe it or not, I actually try to get that into 3 days a week that I can focus on work. So then that way, I've got him the other days, just to solely be able to focus on him. But no, Lynn and I have definitely talked about, what is next? What does the future look like here? Just in terms of, would we expand? So who knows?
Right. It sounds like your business is very successful. You sound very confident and passionate in what you do. So we really do. We would like to have you in Memphis.
Yes. Mind Body Memphis.
Right.
2 employees right here.
Coming soon.
Of course.
So did you always want to be in this position that you're in? Did you imagine this for yourself?
We'll go even further back this time, past like 20 years ago when I was either 8 or 9. My family was involved in a really bad car accident. My brother was hospitalized in very critical condition. And I actually remember when I went back to school, I was staying with my grandparents because my parents were at the hospital with him. And I was having nightmares. Like I was, definitely it was traumatic, right? So when I went back to school, of course, my parents had let the school know what happened. And I met with the school counselor a few times. And I remember that first time being very opposed to, like, she came and got me on the playground and like all the other kids saw this, and, like was not thrilled about it to begin with. But then I also remember after that experience, I would play that my Barbies would go see the counselor. And so it ended up being a very positive, piece of my life, and even like playing that out. So now, I do play therapy with kids now. And like, when I think back about myself, like, Barbie was having problems. So she'd go see therapist Barbie to walk through it. But I never said at the time, though, that's what I wanted to do, with my life, right, with my career. But I do think that had a very positive influence on me early in life. So then fast forward, actually, when I started college, I was a biology major. And I figured out into like the healthcare field just because there was a big push for that. This was in 2004. So, just job stability and all that. And my first semester in college, I had biology, chemistry for like my science classes. Didn't love those classes, but still taking them. And then I had my psychology class, and it was the first one I'd ever had, and I loved it. I had read ahead in that textbook. I was just totally like, I just wanted to know more and learn more. Ended up kind of talking to my parents, talking to my advisor about potentially what this would look like, and knowing that that it would if to do, and at the time I wasn't sure, would I do school counseling, would I do more kind of like what I'm doing now, but knowing that it would require a graduate degree and licensure, it was a big journey ahead, for what it would take to get to this point. But I was pretty excited about psychology and pretty passionate about that it sparked that passion and interest in a way that biology was not doing for me. Right. So at that point, I think that it was just the rest, right, is history in terms of how it worked out.
Well, it worked out beautifully. It's so interesting to hear that you basically planned out your own like play therapy at such a young age. You were able to, like you said, act that out and really didn't have any idea that would be what you're doing today. Yeah. So with that said, I know you said you started off in biology. So if there's any point in time that you could go back, would you take a different path?
Nope, absolutely not. And I will also speak to that, and I talk to clients about this a lot as well, but sometimes when we feel like we have like the next, 5-10 years of our life planned out, and then it doesn't go the way we planned, right? That there's definitely been lots of closed doors as well along my journey. And one being that, when I finished with my bachelor's, I did ultimately at the time want to go on through and get my PhD. I'd applied to a PhD program and master's program. PhD program was highly competitive, didn't get in with my bachelor's, but I still thought that I would get my master's and then go on to get my PhD and be a psychologist. And then that's when I found myself in the role of, primary caretaker of Kimberly, and then ended up, getting full custody of her. And it was not realistic for me at the time to be able to finish, after I finished my master's, to then enroll in a PhD program where it would have needed to be and I couldn't work at the time. And so, there's times like that, right, to where it was disappointing and frustrating that maybe things weren't going the way that I wanted. But hindsight's 2020, and so looking back, I'm like, that it was good sometimes that those doors closed, and that was not an opportunity, for me at the time. And because that was not an opportunity for me at the time, other pathways I took, other influential people in my life, and like earlier, just what a big impact that makes, right? When you've got, the supportive people in your life, the mentors, and even my family, my parents, to, help, pick my daughter up from school if I had to work later, if I had class, or, just, having that support system around me to really get me to where I needed to be. But went off on a little tangent there. But no, to answer the question, Looking back, I think that I'm grateful for those opportunities that maybe I thought I wanted at the time that didn't end up working out. Because like I said, I truly couldn't imagine myself in another career now. And I absolutely love that, I've been able to combine the different things I love that I think not only helps me be a healthier person and therefore a better therapist, but I know helps my clients as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really encouraging.
Right.
Very welcome.
I think students and young professionals, we want everything to go as planned, perfect, just en route. But, hearing your story, it just shows that, everything doesn't have to go as planned. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. And, you'll still get the outcome that you never imagined. So,
yes, 100%.
So do you have any suggestions for, students in your field or in the behavioral health profession?
Yeah, I think that going back to like just the mentors and just the connections with others, even if it's, it doesn't have to be an internship or a practicum, that even just reaching out to different professionals in your community and seeing that, are there even nonprofits, right? Just seeing if there's opportunities for you to, to meet with these individuals or if they, have different opportunities, for work. And I also think if people have the means to also, if you want to be a therapist, to also try to at least have some sort of therapy for yourself, right? To know what it's like, from the client's perspective. And even if that means school counselor or, a counseling center on campus, keeping, financial means, in mind that, it can be expensive, right? So, keeping that in mind, but knowing that, between community mental health or, services on campus, I think, what a great way that is to know, like, is this, can I really see myself doing this, day in and day out, and to know what it's like to be the client, not just to be the therapist.
Right.
And if anyone's listening to this and they, want to reach out to me at Mind Body Knox, just come take a free yoga class, my treat, or just see our facility or meet with me. Like and I think I've heard it on some of the other podcasts as well. I'm more than happy, to spend time, talking, to young people in the field, people kind of trying to figure out, what direction they want to go and where they want to go. Happy to be a guiding hand on that journey because I think, I had such wonderful, people helping me along the way that I will definitely pay that forward and help out others.
Well, that's sweet of you.
It really is.
So you two need to come to Knoxville, right? So you can take some classes.
Right. Because, running a business, that's tough. That is tough work.
And, it is not to downplay that it isn't hard work, but I do think, just personal opinion, right? The benefits that I get from that, with being able, to be so flexible, to be a mom as well, right? And to really get to prioritize my family and what hours I need to be with my family, what hours I can work. And then, to get a say in, this is what I'm earning. And there's no middleman, right? Kind of taking out that paycheck, right? That I think it's like I said, not to downplay that it's not a lot of work, but there's good rewards that come with it as well.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said before, your journey is definitely worth telling. And again, it's so inspiring for me because that's my end goal. I would definitely love to have my own practice and my flexibility. And when you said 3 days, I'm like, yep, that's what I want. To give back and advocate and help people increase all that good energy and just prioritizing their mental health in those days and still having a life of my own. Yeah. And again, it doesn't just stop with the therapy. You're doing yoga, just aerial training. It's so many different things that can go into just prioritizing one's mental health. So you're just embodying all those things in one. And all the while being your own boss and actually being in a work environment that feels amazing and like such a relief. And you created that. So once again, it's just so inspiring to have had this time and opportunity to speak with you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all those kind words.
Well, is there anything else you would like to share with the podcast?
I don't think so. Like I said, though, if anybody listening wants to reach out, you can email me directly. It's paige@mindbodyknox.com. And I would be very happy, to talk with anybody interested in the field, answer any questions, provide any guidance there. So I think that's it.
Well, Miss Paige, we really appreciate you for coming out and speaking with us and sharing your story, your very inspiring story. So we are sure a bunch of students will listen to this podcast and be inspired, and they will contact you with questions, anything that they want to know. So,
Well, thank you all so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to our podcast, brought to you by the Smart Connections podcast from the Smart Center at the University of Memphis, as well as the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers project. If you or anyone you know needs any information from the Smart Center, please contact us at 901-678-1636 or email us at smartcenter@memphis.edu. You can also learn more about us at our website, memphis.edu/smartcenter.